Hello and welcome to this video tutorial. So in this video you learn how to build a to-do list app using Angular, Bootstrap and Angular material. Now this app will be building from the very scratch. So we'll create an Angular app from the very scratch and we'll be using Angular material and Bootstrap for designing a to-do list app. So you'll learn how to install or how to use Angular material and Bootstrap in your Angular applications. We'll be building up codes, like we'll be creating a lot of reusable codes. So we'll learn how to create reusable Angular components using the Angular input and output directives. And finally, we'll see how to unit test the Angular app that we'll be creating along this tutorial. Assuming that you already have Angular CLI installed, let's start by creating a new project. I'll name my app as to-do app. It's asking, would you like to add Angular routing? Yes. Which style sheet format would you like to use? CSS. So I'll do enter. Now this creates the default Angular app with the default with some boilerplate code. Now once you have your project created, you can open it up in a code editor of your choice. So here I'm using Visual Studio Code. So as you can see, this is a folder structure. SRC folder is inside there. It's in the app folder. So here I have one default component that's been created. It's called app component. And here in the HTML and all, I have some default HTML and all. So if I start the app using npm start, I should be able to view the default app running. Let's load the app in a browser window. So no plus 4200, you should be able to see the app running here. So as you can see, the default app is running. We'll be using Bootstrap and Angular material for this application. So let's start by installing Bootstrap. You can use npm install for installing Bootstrap. Bootstrap depends on jQuery and pop.js, so you need to install that also alongside the Bootstrap. Now once you have Bootstrap installed, you just need to go to your angular.json file and add the references inside the script and styles. So here I'll replace it with this. Here I have added styles for you need to replace it with this. So here I have added a reference to the Bootstrap style, jQuery JS file, pop.js and Bootstrap. Now make sure you have added the scripts in this particular order, otherwise it may not work. Now once you have added Bootstrap, you need to also add Angular material. So you can do ng add So in order to add Angular material, you can do it by like ng add @angular/material. And this should install Angular material in your Angular project. You need to select a custom theme or like a pre-built theme. So I'm selecting Indigo theme here. Do you want to set up Angular material typography? Yes. Set up browser animations? Yes. Now this should install Angular material in your Angular application. So once you have Angular material installed, let's see if it's really working. So I'll do one thing. I'll go to my app.html file here. I'll remove the existing code. I'll add something called matlist item. I'll save it. Now mat list, we need to add a reference to the Angular media libraries here. So I'll import it first. Import mat list module from Angular slash material slash Angular slash material slash list mat list module. I'll import it to the mat list array also. Mat list module here. I'll save it. I'll just run the app. Now you should be able to see the mat list in your browser. Now let's load your application. If you refresh the application, you should be able to see an item here. Now if you see here, it should be, don't really have any error. So I believe mat list is pretty much, let's add something called mat card here. So that should give us let's add one more module here. Mat card module. Let's add some mat card here also. Just add a mat card. Mat card. Inside the mat card, I'll add this mat list. Now if you check here, okay, now it shows up. You can see this mat card is this popped up thing. So my Angular material is working pretty fine there. Now let's start by creating two components that we require for our to-do list. One will be a component to add the items and a component to list the items. So I'll just add a component using ng component. Task add. I will create a component inside the app folder. And there you have it. Now we need one more component called task list. Okay. Now we have both the components here. What we'll do is we will go to our app.component.html. So here we have this mat card and mat list. So what I'll do is I'll just remove it from here and move it here to the task list. So here I have a mat card, mat list. So let's add two items. Let's add this as task 1, the other one is task 2. Let's save this thing. Now I'll go to my app.html and I'll just copy the selector, the task selector. I'll go to my app.component.html. So here I'll create a div. Let's say I'll just add a class called container. Inside, let's add a row. And let's add a column for this thing. Inside, let's add this component. Okay. Once we have this component inside, similarly, so this shows up. So I'll just start the app now. Pim start. Now if you refresh the app, you should be able to see like task 1 and task 2 inside. So we'll do one thing. I'll go to inside a class here, task container. Let's add one class here, task item container. I'll just copy this thing, the task container thing, move it here. I'll just add the background color as red. You see it again. Let's make the tasks white. So I'll go to here. I'll just copy this in task item container. Move it here. Add the color as white. Maybe white looks apt. Okay. Similarly, let's go to the add component here. Copy the selector. Let's go to the app.html. I'll add the add form below this one. Now let's add something to our tasks here. This is how it shows up. So now we'll add a form here to input the task stuff and all. So I'll go here. Start by adding a form. Inside the form, let's add mat input. Let's remove the placeholder, we don't need it. So here we are using mat form field. I think we need to include it. So I'll go to the app module here. I'll add an import here. Mat form field module. Let's import it here. Save it. If I load it here, I should be able to see it's like here. Now one more thing. I also need to add one mat input. Let's copy it, paste it. That comes from input. Modify this mat input module. Save it. Add to the import portions. Mat input module. I'll just restart the app. Okay, now as you can see, it's a mat input kind of a box here. But the width of this thing is like, and moreover, we don't want this auto completion, and the width should be 100%. So I'll make those changes to this form. I'll add like auto complete off, and let's add a width to this thing. Class full width. Just copy this thing. Go to CSS. Add a style. Okay, so we have it now. Autocomplete is also not there. Okay. So now let's see how you can add an item. So we'll be using the task add component to add the item. So we already have a form here. What we'll do is we'll create a Angular reactive form. So I'll start by importing form builder, creating an instance of form builder. And using the form builder you can create a form. So I'll define a form task form, which is the form group type. Once you have these things inside ng on it, you can define the task form to be this dot form builder dot form group. And we'll be having one item to add here. That will be task title. We can add a validation here. It's validators not required. Okay, so that should create a reactive form. So now and just copy this thing, go to your form here and add the form group here and add a form control name to be task title. Okay, so now on when key press up, you can add, we'll add a key press up event on key press. I'll just log the coming event for the time being. For this thing to work, we need to make sure we have reactive forms modules in our now app.module.ts. So here, reactive forms module that you need to add. Save everything. Start your app. I'll just load the app here. So as you can see, I'll just try entering something by grocery and I'll press enter. If you go to your console, you should be able to see that nothing is logged. Okay, nothing is logged, so I think there's some issue there. Just go to the add, task.add. Okay, okay, it should be key up dot enter, I believe. If you save this thing, you check the console. Okay, so that now works. So it's like key up dot enter. So it means when you press the enter key on that time, this thing gets locked. So here you can see that it's loading its there. Okay. So on pressing this thing, what we'll do is we'll go to on key press event, and we don't need this event for the time being. What we'll do is we'll check if this task form dot it's a valid one. If it's a valid one, let's show an alert. If it's a valid one, show an alert. Task entered. Else alert the required fields. Okay, I'll just save this thing and let's see how it goes. If I add like by grocery enter, it says task entered, and if I don't do anything and if I press enter, it says enter the required fields. So that's working fine. Now we need to do one thing. We need to, like on key press, we need to add the data. So if the form is a valid one, what we need to do is we need to create a task. So first what I'm going to do is I'll create a model here. Okay, so go to the app folder, create a folder called model. Inside the model, create a file called task.ts. Now export class task. Now this thing, it has, I'll have add a constructor to this thing, and it has a title which is a string. Inside the constructor you can set this thing, so whatever title I'm passing in, I can set this up. This is our title. equal to title being passed. That should be good. Okay, so now we have the task model ready. Now I'll go to our app.component.ts. Now for this app, we are not really keeping a backend. Like, we are keeping all the data in the client side only. So what I'm doing is I'm keeping a task array in our app component. So which will be a list of arrays. So whatever we enter will be pushed to this array, and we'll be manipulating tasks from this array only. So I'll create a tasks variable here, and the task will be boot model slash task. Okay, so an array of tasks. So whenever we add anything here, it should be pushed here. So what we are doing is inside the task model, we need to create an output thing. So we'll create an output directive here. Event emitter. Now once a key is pressed and everything is entered, what we'll do is I'll just emit the task form dot value, and that should go here. So now we have defined the output here, event emitter. Now we are calling this one from app.component.html. So inside here I need to define it. So I'll define the event emitter. Let's rename it a bit. Let's say it as event add task event emitter. Add task event emitter should be good. Add task event emitter. I'll come here. Now you need to define this method inside your app also, app.component also. So here I have a method like this. So whenever anything is emitted from the add task component, it comes to here. It comes to the parent component inside the app component. Here, data received as. Okay, I'll just save it now. Let's run the whole code and see how it works. So go to the app, I'll refresh it a bit. So I'll add a task by grocery. I press enter, task entered. I'll just check the console. Okay, I don't see anything here. So what might have happened? I got this message. This got emitted, but it didn't reach here. Okay, I added it inside the wrong one. This goes here, not in the other one. Okay, to the task, app task. So I'll just add it once again. I'll refresh the app once again. Now I'm adding by grocery and pressing enter. It shows some message. If I check the console, I should be able to see data received here, which has the task object. So we are able to add the task here. Now once we receive the task here, we need to do one thing. We need to add it to the task array. maybe we'll just pass in the title here. We don't need the whole. Okay, so you have it here. So what you can do here is you just need to push it. Just a task dot push new task. You pass in the title. So dollar event dot title. I guess that's the object, I believe. Task title. Okay. Now if I log tasks are this dot tasks. Okay. Okay. Let's add a couple of tasks here. Buy grocery. I'll add one more. Buy chocolate. It's also entered. If I check the console, we are seeing some error here. Cannot write push of undefined. Undefined. Okay, it's not defined here. Okay, I get it. You need to define a constructor. Inside the constructor, you need to assign it. We only defined type here. We didn't initialize the variable, so it's an array. Now it should be good. Let's add stars. Good. Go to your console. You should be able to see it there. There you go. The second one, it has two items. Buy chocolate, buy grocery. Okay. So next, we'll see how to bind this task array to the upper this thing, this portion. So whatever we enter, it should display here. So we need to modify our task list to make that connection. Now let's modify our task list to display the tasks which we have added. So right now we have hard-coded the data here. So what I'll do is we're keeping the tasks in this task array. So what we will do is we'll pass this thing, this particular task list, tasks equal to tasks, and inside the task list we need to add an input directive. So here input tasks. Now when we have tasks in here, we can iterate over the tasks and all inside the task list. So what we can do is we don't need this. We will iterate using ng4 and create a mat list item each time. So I'll just add a ng4 let task and tasks. Task dot so model here is like task dot title. So go to here and add a select title. So now each of the entry should be rendered from the task array inside the task list. Now if I refresh the app, you will see that we don't have anything here. So if I add an entry by grocery and press enter, task centered, but it doesn't go up. So let's see why it's not happening. Okay, we have some error in the console. Can't bind ng4 since it is a non-property mat list. Okay, so it's not binding it in there. Okay. Okay, it's not in, it should be off. Okay, now if you see the app, let's add some stuff here. Enter. Task entered, and you should have it added here. Similarly, if I add pick Harry from school, the center, and the task gets added. The two things, we don't need the alert thing, and we want this to get cleared once we have entered the data. So first we'll remove the alert, we don't need it. Second, once the data has been added, so we'll try a patch here to clear the data once it has been emitted. So it's like this dot transform dot patch value. Add patch the value to empty task title empty, save it. Now if you run it, let's add some stuff here like buy grocery gets added, pick Harry from school gets added. Next, let's add a checkbox corresponding to each of the task items to check it or to delete it. Okay, so now let's add a checkbox corresponding to each task item. So what I'll do is I'll add a checkbox here. So the checkbox, so like each list item should be having one checkbox. So what we'll do is we'll just add one more card here, M card, and move this mat list item into that card. And I'll add one checkbox also here, checkbox. And this looping thing, the ng4 thing, it will go to the card stuff. So for each item there will be a card. So now we are combining these things into a single item list. So if you view it now, like let's say you add something, it comes out like this. So if you add another one, it goes like second list. Okay, so let's do one thing here. M card, we just add a class task container. Just add it here. Task container will be having a padding of maybe 5 pixels. So that will make it a bit more smaller comparatively. We add something. We add one more thing. And let's remove with this class. We don't need this class as of now. Oh, okay, same task. That might be task item container. I'll just rename this thing. Item container. Task item. Okay, if I refresh this thing, it should be good. Say by grocery, it adds one class now. By something else, it adds another one. So I'll just add one more padding here. Okay. The text is not visible there. So this thing is not required for the timing. We'll just remove this. Now it should be visible. Yeah. Okay, now we need to reduce a couple of things. One, we need to align this thing properly. Set each mat card. So I'll add a class to the mat card and set display as flex. Okay. Flex direction will be set as row. Okay, now that's good. And we'll just align the content. Align items. Align items to the center. Okay. So I'll just copy this thing. Add a style for the mat card. So this is task item container style. I'll go here, task item container. I'll add it here. Save it. You run it. Now you should have the style there. Buy grocery. Now it looks good, right? Pick someone from college. Okay, now that looks good. Now between each of these items, maybe we can add a certain space. So like between each math list item, or like maybe between each math card can have maybe a margin. Can have a margin. Set a margin of 1 rem maybe. Let's keep it like 5 pixels. That should be fine. Set a margin of 5 pixels between each math cards. Margin 5 pixels should be good. If I add something, okay, it looks good, I believe. Okay, now we need to add a functionality to this checkbox. So now let's add an event to this checkbox, like so. I'll just add a click event to this thing. Change status, and I'll pass in the task. Okay, so I'll register this event inside the task list component. Okay, so we need to keep one variable inside our model, like status. So I'll add one more status here, status key. So it will be an enum probably. Okay, so we can also create an enum. So I'll do one thing. I'll create one more folder here called enum. Okay, not inside the model, outside. So I'll create a folder called enum inside the app folder. Inside enum, I'll add enum.ts. Export enum task status. Active 1. Active equal to 1. Active is 1. Done is 2. So these are the status for the enums. So I'll do one thing. I'll inside the task. I'll import these things. Task status from enum/enum. This is type of task status. So now by default, this will be status will be an active one, not active. Now, so when I click on that checkbox, it checks actually like what's the status of the task, and based on that, like if task dot status is task status dot active, make it as passive. Done. Status will be task status dot done. Else, maybe we don't require an else, like or else be this will be pending. And this happens when we try to reward that thing, so it might be something that will improve in future. So for the time being, I'll just keep it this way. So let's say I have a task called buy grocery. If I check on this thing here, it goes here and it gets the status gets changed to done. Now we are now displaying both the same way here. So I'll do one thing. Maybe I'll underline these things when the status is done. So we can do one thing. As you can see here, it's a div, right, for the mat list content. Mat list. Okay. Can add text decoration as underline or line through, right? Wait. Text decoration line through. So I'll create a style based on this thing called strike. So I'll check like something here. ng class strike if task status is equals to task status dot the value is equal to the value is 2. The value is 2 to be a strike, right? Now let's check it. I'll add one task called by grocery. Click enter. Repair refrigerator. Now if I check on this thing, okay, the class thing isn't working. Let's see what's breaking there. When I click on this thing, what happens? Okay, so we don't have any errors in the console. Okay, I see it. Okay, this is not required here. I think we mistakenly added that thing. If you save it again, if you try it again, let's add one by grocery and one random task. Save it, and if I click on this checkbox, you can see that it's getting striked out. Okay, so I think that's working now. One more thing that we'll add to this thing is we'll add a trash icon, or like a delete icon to delete a particular task. Because for adding a trash icon, I'll be using a SVG image, so I'm adding a SVG here. This is a trash icon SVG. If you save it, you should be able to see here. You can see the trash icon. So on click of this thing, I'll add an method to remove or like delete tasks, and I can pass the task here. So let's add the tasks in the list also here. Here I'm adding this thing. Here's the tasks. For deleting, like for deleting it, we need to know which task to delete actually. So we need to assign one ID to this task, to each of the tasks here. So we'll do one thing. We'll go to the model and add an ID field here. ID, and this ID will be assigned using a package called npm install GUID TypeScript. Now once you have the package installed, you just need to import it here. Once you have imported it, you can directly use it like GUID dot create. It creates a unique ID for this thing. Okay, now once you have the ID, so now based on the ID you can delete the item in your delete task method. Like, so we can simply get the index. So first thing you got to do is find the index of the task. We have the task list. Item dot ID equals to task dot ID. Now based on that we can get the index, and now once you have the index, You can remove it using the splice method. Pass in the index and the items remove. That should do it. Okay. Now if you save it, let's add a couple of tasks. Task 1, task 2, task 3. I'm marking as done. Maybe this is also done now. Let's say if I want to remove it, you click on it here. That gets removed. This also same way. This also same way. So that's how we implement the delete task functionality. Okay, so this is all we have for this tutorial. So we implemented the basic functionalities of a to-do list. We just showed how to add tasks or how to remove or like how to check and how to underline or like strike out tasks and all. So this basic to-do list app can be enhanced with the help of further features that you can implement as a part of your practice for like learning Angular and anything. So do let me know your thoughts in the comments below, like how whether you like the tutorial or not, or like if you are facing any issues or anything, feel free to add a comment in the video and I'll help you out. Thanks for watching this video. Thank you.